Oh, I love you.
Hey, what up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of P.O.L. Gamer View. I'm your host, IntraVenus, and today's episode is all about Spider-Man games on the Sony Playstation Portable. Let's get into it. Number 1. Spider-Man Web of Shadows is a 2008 action-adventure video game based on the Marvel Comics character Spider-Man. The game was released in October of 2008 across multiple platforms and encompasses 3 drastically different versions. One released for Microsoft Windows, the PlayStation 3, Wii, and the Xbox 360 features an open world and non-linear gameplay. One for the PS2 and the PlayStation Portable. That's Spider-Man Web of Shadows Amazing Allies Edition, which is the 2.5D side-scrolling beat-em-up, and one for the Nintendo DS, which is a Metroidvania-style beat-em-up. This was the last Spider-Man game released for the PlayStation 2 console. All 3 versions have several common elements, such as moral choices that alter the narrative, the ability to summon allies during fights, and a similar plot, despite different characters being featured. Web of Shadows' storyline is significantly darker than most previous Spider-Man games, as it revolves around a symbiote invasion threatening Manhattan, which Spider-Man must stop with the help of several unlikely allies. Spider-Man Web of Shadows received generally average to positive reviews, with game rankings and Metacritic giving the PlayStation Portable version of the game a 77% out of 100, making it one of the highest scoring versions of the game across all platforms. The PlayStation 2 and Sony Playstation Portable versions were released as Spider-Man Web of Shadows Amazing Allies Edition and are drastically different from the console and PC versions. These versions do not feature an open world and are instead a 2.5D side-scrolling brawler. Players can change between Spider-Man's 2 costumes at any time during gameplay, with the game providing several situations in which one suit is more useful than the other. For example, there are several weak walls which can only be destroyed by the black-suited Spider-Man. Each suit has individual upgrades which unlock new combos and increase Spider-Man's health bar. Like its title suggests, this version features more allies that can be summoned during fights compared to the other versions. There are also several consumable powers that can be used, such as temporary damage increase and health regeneration. Instead of cutscenes, the game features dialogue trees. During these sections, the player converses with the character and selects Spider-Man's replies, which can be respectful, mean, or neutral. Depending on which reply is chosen, the player will receive upgrade points for Spider-Man's red suit, black suit, or both. These sections function similarly to the moral choices in the console and PC version and can also unlock new allies or secondary quests. Number 2. Spider-Man Friend or Foe. This is an action-adventure beat-em-up video game based on Marvel Comics Spider-Man, released in the year of 2007. The game borrows characters and designs from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy, with a plot that is non-canon to the films. It features 2-player co-op gameplay where one player controls Spider-Man and the other one of his allies. The storyline of the game revolves around phantoms, dangerous creatures created by mixing symbiotes with holographic technology, which a mysterious villain plans to use to take over the world. This villain has also captured and brainwashed many of Spider-Man's foes to help him acquire meteor shards that will strengthen his army. After being recruited by S.H.I.E.L.D., Spider-Man journeys across the globe to retrieve these shards himself and recruit more allies to his cause. Friend or Foe received mixed to average reviews from Game Rankings and Metacritic, giving it a score of just 60.8% on the PSP version. IGN gave the game a score of 4.9 out of 10, complaining about its repetitiveness and lack of challenge. IGN said, "The action-adventure brawler developed by Next Level Games and published by Activision started out with a unique idea, that Spidey would battle a horde of mysterious baddies with the help of his sworn Marvel Universe enemies. But what begins as an interesting premise turns out to be the most ordinary of gaming experiences, and Spider-Man Friend or Foe very early on proves itself to be its own worst enemy."
Well done. You performed a power combo.
Number 3. Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 is a 2004 video game based on the movie of the same name. Published by Activision, the console versions were developed by Treyarch, while the others had different developers and are drastically different as a result. The game is the sequel to Spider-Man itself based on the movie of the same name. All versions of the game closely follow the film's plot, but expand upon it by including scenes and characters that do not appear in the movie. Set 2 years after the events of Spider-Man, the game finds Peter Parker struggling to manage both his personal life and his duties as Spider-Man. When scientists and Peter's mentor, Dr. Otto Octavius, becomes the diabolical villain Dr. Octopus after an accident, Spider-Man must stop him from recreating a dangerous fusion power experiment. The game was released on June 28th of 2004 for Microsoft Windows, PS2, Xbox, Game Boy Advance, and GameCube, followed by N-Gage and Nintendo DS versions, both released later in the same year. A PlayStation Portable version, which uses the same engine and graphics as the first game, was released almost 1 year later. The console versions of the game were positively received, with critics commending the realistic Manhattan setting and web-slinging mechanics. It has been called one of the best superhero games of all time, with some crediting the game for helping revolutionize the open-world genre. The handheld versions received mixed reviews, while the PC version received largely negative reviews. Tobey Maguire, Alfred Molina, Kirsten Dunst, and J.K. Simmons reprised their roles from the film as Spider-Man, Dr. Octopus, Mary Jane Watson, and J. Jonah Jameson, respectively, while Bruce Campbell, who played an usher in the doors of Mary Jane's show, narrates the game. Number 4, and the final game based on the Spider-Man character from Marvel Comics on the PlayStation Portable is none other than Spider-Man 3, a 2007 action-adventure video game based on the movie of the same name and made to promote the film. It was released for Microsoft Windows, Xbox 360, PS3, PS2, Wii, Nintendo DS, Game Boy Advance, and PlayStation Portable. The PSP version was released on October 16th of 2007. With the exception of Nintendo DS's version, which received mostly positive reviews, Spider-Man 3 was met with a mixed critical response. Most of the criticism was aimed at the game's graphics, short length, and technical issues, as well as being too similar to its predecessors. The drastic differences between platforms was another point of criticism. The web aggregator Metacritic gave this game anywhere from a 50 to a 79% out of 100, depending on which console you got it for, with the PSP version sitting at 52 out of 100. Spider-Man 4, based on the cancelled film of the same name, was developed by Eurocom for the Nintendo Wii exclusively, but it was ultimately cancelled. In June 2019, a senior environment artist from Radical Entertainment, Wayne Dalton, posted several screenshots taken from the game and revealed that Spider-Man 4 had been in development at Radical, and that after its cancellation, assets from the game were reworked into the video game Prototype 2.
Thanks for all you've done already, Spidey, but I gotta tell you, these H-bombers are giving us fits. Now they're dabbling in industrial espionage. We need to get back a prototype they stole.
Alright everyone, before we go, we do have one more Spider-Man game for you, and that's number 5, Spider-Man, released for the PS1 and available on the PlayStation Portable as a PS1 Classic. Let's check it out. Spider-Man was released in 2000. This action-adventure video game based on the Marvel Comics character was developed by Neversoft and published by Activision using the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater game engine for the PlayStation 1. The game was later ported by different developers to various systems, including Game Boy Color and the Nintendo 64 that same year, as well as the Sega Dreamcast and Microsoft Windows in 2001. The game's story follows Spider-Man as he attempts to clear his name after being framed by a doppelganger and becoming a wanted criminal, while also having to foil a symbiote invasion orchestrated by Dr. Octopus and Carnage. Numerous villains from the comics appear as bosses, including Scorpion, Rhino, Venom, Mysterio, Carnage, and Dr. Octopus, as well as a Carnage symbiote-possessed Dr. Octopus named Monster Ock, who was created exclusively for the game as the final boss. The game features narration from co-creator Stan Lee and is the first Spider-Man video game published by Activision following their acquisition of the license, which would expire in the year 2014. Spider-Man received an overall generally positive reception. It was followed by 3 sequels. Both Game Rankings and Metacritic gave this game a score of 87 out of 100. Alright everyone, that's it for this episode. Thanks so much for sticking around till the end. If you like what I'm doing here, please hit the like and subscribe buttons as it really helps me out and encourages me to make more videos, especially on the Sony Playstation Portable. Don't forget that you can choose the topic of the next PSP GEMS episode by visiting the community tab on my YouTube channel. Via the polls, you, the audience, has chosen this episode and you will choose the next. So stay tuned for part 13 and I hope y'all have a wonderful day and evening. Until next time, I'll catch you on the flip. Goodbye. Woke up, don't wanna choke up, lost in the smoking, I'm coughing and coping. I don't wanna joke, I'm just lost in the moment. I'm cooking the oceans of all these emotions, sipping the potion, what's all the commotion? Been giving these notions, but nobody's knows.